Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Lobby Talks. My name's James Lemon. I'm the founder of Atollo, and we set up Lobby Talks to be an ongoing industry discussion with emerging and established leaders who have got something to share. And that could just be their point of view on what's coming next in the industry, how we rebound from the COVID challenges of the last couple of years, or just their points on giving back, on sharing, and the importance of mentorship across the community. Atollo is a community that's all about peer-to-peer learning and mentorship. We literally exist so that the industry can collaborate and come together. In the coming weeks, we're going to be sharing a lot more about early careers. We've got some specialist events and discussions on the platform focused at those people getting started. And that segues beautifully into our guest today, who shot out of the blocks in his hospitality career and has established himself at leading brands like Marriott and has now bravely gone out on his own. So really excited to kind of hear his story and his perspectives on the industry. Alec, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. It's such a pleasure to be here with the Atollo community and with you especially.
Oh, you're really kind. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Greetings from the United States.
Yeah, good to have you here. Good to have you here. Well, look, Alec, we're not locked down. We're not in our home bedrooms. Instead, we always meet virtually on Lobby Talks in a hotel lobby, as we know they're the center of this industry and where all the fun happens. So where are we meeting today?
Today, we're actually in San Francisco, one of my favorite hotels. It's the Palace, part of Marriott's luxury collection. It's an historic hotel originally built in the 1800s, destroyed, unfortunately, during the famous 1906 earthquake, but rebuilt and revitalized, thankfully, into this beautiful establishment in 1909. And it's one of my favorite stops right in the heart of the city.
I'm not surprised. It looks absolutely amazing. It looks like we kind of stepped into some royal venue or some ballroom from a Disney film.
Exactly. A perfect spot for an afternoon tea or for a great cocktail at night, and their service is always impeccable.
Sounds great. Well, what would be your cocktail of choice if we could be there in real time?
Ooh, well, my go-to is a Sazerac, actually. So, bring a little bit of New Orleans into San Francisco.
I literally have no idea what that is. Enlighten us, Alec.
So it's actually the very first cocktail invented in New Orleans at a place called the Sazerac Halle whiskey. You have some Peychaud bitters, a bit of absinthe, as well as oftentimes maybe some simple syrup.
Very cool. Very cool. I think there's a bit of a delay, which is a shame because I need to grab the recipe for that, but we'll crack on.
I'll catch you afterwards.
Sounds good. Brilliant. Well, let's kick back. Let's enjoy Sazerac and let's get straight into this. So look, we've known each other for a couple of years with your mentoring on Atollo and you're giving back to the community. But for many people, you're a new face and a new name. So maybe you could help us with our first section, your career in 60 seconds. You up for the challenge?
So the very first phase of my career focused in hotels. I worked in 5 hotels, all luxury properties, starting with an historic hotel in Rhode Island, working my way to Boston. I spent some time with the Disney organization, making magic down in Orlando, and then joined the Ritz-Carlton for the first time in 2013 at the Ritz-Carlton Boston. Held a variety of operational and management roles, mostly in front office, a bit in food and beverage through club lounge experiences, and just had a great time building my foundation in the business. Phase 2 brought me to Marriott's corporate office, where I worked on the global quality team for 6 years and spanned every facet of the business, all 7,600 hotels worldwide across 30 brands, creating systems and developing and delivering training programs to help hotel operators improve their guest experiences and to help our corporate executives consider strategic directions that the company might take. And most recently, I've spun off and formed my own organization with 2 great partners. The Hospitality Leadership Academy provides consulting services to both name brands and boutiques, and we focus on helping organizations design and deliver 5-star service through a combination of custom service training programs, as well as through ad hoc management consulting and service design, quality management, and human resources strategy. And it's just a lot of fun to see this next stage of the career.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be digging into that in our time together today. And I have to congratulate you on probably the most structured answer we've ever had to your career in 60 seconds. Feels like you nailed that one. I'm sure it's a sign of your success.
Right. It's the operator in me.
Exactly. Look, I need you less polished for this next one, okay? Our next section is called Good Day, Bad Day. And we want to get right into the roots of the toughest time you've had in hospitality and also the best time. I know people really love to understand what a day in the life is like for a hospitality leader. maybe you could take us through your best and your worst days.
Sure. So best days, I remember, being on property, being able to experience the guest interactions firsthand, either on my own interacting with a guest or leading a team as their manager. Always such a rewarding experience and a great way to learn the business from the ground up. But I've found the most fulfilling parts of my career have been in the corporate offices, designing strategies and coming up with programs to help hoteliers worldwide refine their programs and deliver great guest experiences at massive scale. Bad day, I'm drawn back also to my hotel operations days. I remember there was one particular back-to-back shift. I think I finished at 2 a.m. I had to start the next day at 7, and still having so much adrenaline, I figured I would take my very first dose of melatonin, a little bit of a sleeping agent to help me out. And evidently I took a little bit too much.
Oh,
Can't
no.
quite remember everything that happened the next day, but
Yeah.
but the team was successful, and I made it out all okay in the end.
That's hilarious. I've never taken sleeping pills. I don't know what it would do to me. I mean, I sleep heavily enough anyway. So did you
Yeah.
make it to work on time, or were you just
Oh
crazy
yeah, I
late?
made it through and delivered a successful lineup evidently. And it was I can't quite remember everything that happened that day, but I'm sure that it all worked out well in the end.
Just like this fog. Hopefully
Yeah.
you relied on some decent people around you. No, all good. Well, really good stuff. Really good stuff. And so maybe take us through kind of one of those days in the corporate office. So look, I think a lot of people who work in hospitality right now probably aspire to a role in corporate, which I think is sometimes unnecessary actually, because there's just amazing leadership roles in
Mhm.
hotels and in
Absolutely.
restaurants. But for those that do, how was it you made that leap into corporate, and how was it you began to kind of prove yourself as a useful person to have around?
Sure. Well, this is going to resonate well with the Otello community. Networking. That was my door into the corporate office. It started with my recruiter in college. I had built up a relationship with her over years, all with Marriott that whole time. And after having a couple of experiences in Marriott's hotels, she had faith in me to recommend me to our corporate teams for an internship. I built relationships while working at the Ritz-Carlton's corporate office at that time. And then after another year on property, was kind of pulled by some colleagues to join the global quality organization. It's a very different experience from the day to day in a hotel. As our operators on the line will know, there's not a uniform day to day in a hotel. Every day is different. Your shift hours might be different. The team that you're working with on any given shift might be different. Your guests are certainly different. At the corporate office, there's substantially more routine, which can be great from a work-life balance standpoint. The classic 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, certainly has its appeal. But I've found that between myself or other colleagues, a lot of our time is spent in meeting rooms, in conferences, doing analysis or writing on our own, all with a collegial spirit, trying to help our hotels, our restaurants, our golf
Yeah.
courses, et cetera, improve. But it's a very different pace.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So yeah, it's an interesting game. And your top networking tip for people, I suppose most people are like, hey, I'm just not quite sure what that networking thing is. Is that as simple as asking people for a coffee and chatting about what they do, or anything more advanced than that?
It can be as simple as that, and as straightforward as that. Finding interesting people on LinkedIn, doing a Google search for your interests, and seeing whose names pop up, reaching out to them, and seeing if they'd be interested in offering advice. That never hurts, especially once you're in a work environment. If there are people in that space that you want to meet,
Yeah,
it's all the easier, I think, to be able to go and knock on their door or pass them in the lunchroom and just strike up a conversation. I think that's where hospitality professionals have the upper leg advantage, because we've got the soft skills and how to build rapport with people and build connections quite naturally. And it's certainly a skill that can be put to use in our professional networking as well.
yeah. I think there is something unique about hospitality, isn't there? I think we're
Right.
on both sides of that networking. Actually, you'd be really surprised if you go and ask someone for a bit of help, or you just ask someone about their area of the business. I don't think I've ever had a no. I think everyone is
Mhm.
just like, yeah, actually, if you work at the same company as me, there's a level of trust and there's a sense this might be useful for both of us one day. So
Right.
let's just give it a go. That's really funny. I'm exactly the same as you. I'm always on LinkedIn around the companies that I've worked for. I'm like, oh, hey, I wonder who does my job in Singapore. I wonder who does this
Exactly.
other thing for this other brand. And as you say, it's often internal directories can be pretty poor, but LinkedIn is
Mm.
the only internal directory you'll ever need for a hotel chain, really. So
Exactly.
fascinating, really nice. Well, look, our next section's called Last Day on Earth, and we ask all of our guests. Obviously, we wouldn't wish anyone's last day on them, but if you did just have a day left to enjoy the world's best hospitality, the one that's right for you, what would be your kind of hotel, your restaurant, your event of choice? Maybe you could walk us through what your last day on Earth would look like.
Absolutely. Tough choices across the board. There's so many great destinations around the world. In terms of hotel, my go-to is the Miami Beach Edition right on South Beach. It's a beautiful hotel. And incidentally, the general manager down there was one of my former bosses at the Ritz-Carlton Boston Common. So it's a small world situation, but a beautiful Ian Schrager designed property in an historic hotel building. Restaurant-wise, I'd head to Chicago to enjoy Alinea, one of the top restaurants in the world, created by Grant Atchas, a renowned culinarian. They're known for molecular gastronomy, which is just always such an interesting experience, a kind of mind-bending way to enjoy food and everything around it.
And for you, like, what is it? I've never eaten there, but probably one I should add to my wish list. But for you, what is it from like a hospitality point of view the team gets right? Like, what is it that makes that a memorable hospitality experience?
I think there are two aspects of it. One is the precision. As you would expect in an environment earning Michelin stars year after year, the team is so refined in the way that they deliver warm hospitality, certainly, but that they're consistent in their execution. They hit all the marks just right. In terms of the food, it's just such incredible innovation. You'd find ingredients infused and concocted in ways that you wouldn't expect. An apple might not look like an apple, but it'll taste better than a Granny Smith or a Macintosh right off the tree. And it's fun to kind of see what molecular gastronomists can kind of come up with to surprise and delight their guests.
Yeah,
and they
I love
do
that
it so well.
I think on this side of the pond we have Heston Blumenthal. I think it probably does a similar thing, right? Really brings that science to food. That's awesome. That's awesome. That sounds like one for the list. And how about events? We often don't talk about that as hoteliers, but those are some of the most memorable experiences we can have, right?
So I think one that's on the top of my bucket list is Burning Man. Incidentally, I've heard such amazing things about the artistic community that goes out into the desert every year to kind of celebrate artistry and come together in almost a futuristic semi-utopian state. I think it would be really cool to see how that happens, especially considering that it's a very organic event. There are certainly planning that goes into it, but a lot of it happens on the fly over the course of several days and weeks.
Yeah. No, Burning Man's, I think, on a lot of people's list.
Yeah.
I've always been a massive fan. I think the thing that makes me nervous about Burning Man is you're supposed to turn up with your own skill, aren't you, to kind of barter and get by. And
Exactly.
I'm not really sure kind of hosting a weekly event and doing PowerPoint is necessarily in high demand in the middle of the Nevada desert.
Exactly. I'm going to pitch the pinstripes myself.
Do you have a skill that you'd use for your to get bartering and live on?
Oh, good. Well, I'm gonna have to work on that too, but I can make a mean cocktail and take care of making beds too. All those hospitality skills will put them to good use.
I love that. The Burning Man housekeeping division run by Alec. I think like, I could join that and I can make a few beds. So I think we'd be all right. That's ace. What a brilliant one. Fab. No, there's three really great choices there, Alec. Look, our last section's called the guest book, and it's really my favorite time because it's a time where you get a chance to share, just like leaving your mark in a guest book at the end of a hotel stay. Leave your mark for the next guest, for the next kind of people in the industry. And I think, in a lot of ways, you've come up in a career that people must admire, right? You've touched on the major brands. You've had that quite clear career path. Not sure if it was always such a career path that was obvious to you, but you've ended up here. Maybe you could share some of that wisdom and we can kind of get into a bit of a discussion around that in the next kind of few minutes.
Absolutely. Well, so incidentally, it was a little planned. There are always surprises along the way. There were phases of my career that happened faster than others. Moving to the corporate office as swiftly as I did wasn't fully expected. Being able to enjoy 5 great hotels between brands, like you said, the Ritz-Carlton, Disney, and others, created a fantastic foundation. The best advice that I can give is for students and for young professionals, even for seasoned professionals, to think about their career in different phases. In each of those phases, what are the things that they want to accomplish? What's the impact that they want to have? What's the balance that they'd like to achieve between their professional lives and other aspects of their lives? Certainly, we're more complex than whomever gives us our paycheck at the end of the day. And in thinking about those different phases and how you might build from one to the next, I'd encourage you to network, to learn from other people who have done it, or who have gone in different routes. Hear what their advice is, see what tips and tricks you can learn to make your process a little bit smoother. And don't be afraid to try things, to seize opportunities, and to see where those roads may lead, even if they deviate a little bit from whatever plan you have in mind.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of talk around kind of confidence, and obviously people can hit hard for a couple of years. They don't necessarily have a natural confidence to be out there meeting people, putting themselves out there professionally. Where is it you find your confidence from, or maybe not so much now, but at the start of your career? What made you, gave you that kind of fire, that kind of edge to actually get out there and start building that network? Maybe speaking to some quite senior people who, maybe people think, I can't go and chat to that person. I'm only just getting started in my own career.
So, two pieces of advice that I have in that regard. The first is that we're all just people. We're all skin and bones at the end of the day. And I remember I got some particularly useful advice when I was in college, starting the interview process, starting the networking process. And it was a recommendation from a career advisor to basically treat every interview, every networking opportunity purely as a conversation. It's a chance for me to connect with somebody else and vice versa. And that took a lot of the pressure off. The other thing that I might recommend, especially in the course of business, it's a skill that comes in handy from the front desk to food and beverage to corporate offices worldwide, is adding almost a dash of theatricality to things. And I picked this up when I worked for Disney. We had one concierge in particular who began every shift, at the end of our huddle, she'd say, "Let's go play hotel." And it was certainly a job. It was certainly structured. We had expectations as concierge, and all of our colleagues around us, our cast members in Disney speak, had great jobs to perform. But that advice to go play hotel reminded us it's important to have fun with what we do. It's important to play a part in the experience of our guests.
Yeah.
But in doing that, you almost have that front of the house self
Mhm.
versus the you behind the scenes in the heart of the house or in your personal life, and having that persona that you can develop and cultivate and curate, almost separating yourself just a little bit, creating an arm's length relationship, I found makes it a little bit easier to develop that
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, the fact that we're all just people, right? I think I
Right.
had the same advice. I remember chatting to more senior people in my first kind of roles in IHG, and people be like, it's really frustrating actually when you get more senior, because it can be quite lonely, because people don't just come and talk to you. They assume you're really busy. They assume you're too important to chat. And often the opposite is true. They actually love to know, well, what are people really saying? How is this project
Exactly.
really going? And can I get a view on it? So almost having those slightly informal routes of communication, networking, chatting around the business. And I think more and more the whole industry on
Mhm.
platforms like Atollo, I think will be really important to, frankly, tackle some of the big challenges we've got to deal with in the next
Right,
couple of
and
years.
there are a lot of big ones right now, between labor shortages, supply chains, and everything in between, but at the same time, this is the best time to work in hospitality, in my opinion. There are so many opportunities for young leaders as well as, again, seasoned leaders to prove
Yeah.
themselves, to rise up the chain of command, to expand their responsibilities, and to, broaden horizons too, try things, go new places.
Yeah, I love that. Like, what line manager wouldn't accept an offer of someone who's prepared to take on a small project or
Right.
help out while things are tough? Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This kind of seize the day type mentality is where we're at. Talking of season of the day, I really admired the way that, even before you moved on from Marriott, you'd already started setting yourself up with a couple of side projects.
Mhm.
I think that approach is coming quite popular. People going, well, look, this is my kind of job one, but actually I've got a passion project. I've got kind of job two over here as well. Maybe talk us through that part of that phase, as you've been saying, of your career.
Mhm.
What was it that made you bolt on something additional to Marriott? What was it you were looking for, and how did you kind of go about managing that, given I'm sure you had plenty to do with one job?
Right. So about 36% of millennials have what we kind of affectionately term a side hustle these days.
Yeah.
And they range from hobbies to passion projects to things you can monetize and sell. And in my case, I had two colleagues, one a professor at my former university, Boston University, and then a classmate of mine. They each co-authored a book on human resources and were reached out to by an organization that was interested in having some help improving their services. It was a residential concierge firm.
Mhm.
And they needed somebody with an operational perspective focused in quality. They knew me, they tapped me. We had some exploratory conversations and began work with that client. And as that happened, as I started to become increasingly active speaking and writing a couple of different books, um, all through networking, people learned about us and our reputation, the services that we can deliver, and we've picked up a number of other clients since then, enough to create a sustainable business, which has been just a really exciting experience, not only to grow ourselves professionally, but most fulfillingly to help other organizations embrace the principles of five-star service, develop their hospitality tactics in industries as far-reaching as telecommunications and, again, residential concierge services, not just a typical hotel or restaurant.
Yeah. So it really is that idea that actually in so many industries, you need great customer service. You need to create great experiences, right? You need your team to kind of show up and do that. So it's
Right.
really transferable. And I think that's probably something we need to be telling everyone about the industry, right? Is this is a great foundation for a whole range of those skills. No, I love that.
Exactly.
And so yeah, let's move on to where you're at now. So it's the Hospitality Leadership Academy. I guess what's your vision for it? What does a great project look like? And what are some of the lessons you feel like that Leadership Academy is going to be imparting on, the industry's people and its employers?
Certainly. So every engagement that we have with our clients is different, which is always just a fun opportunity to see inside a different organization. Sometimes it's for one client, for example, for over a year and a half, another client for a couple of weeks. And in each of these opportunities, we have a chance to meet some really interesting people, explore their business, explore their industry, again, in certain circumstances where we work outside of the hospitality realm. And one of uh, the things that we often do is begin with just candid assessments of the organization. Where
Mhm.
are they performing? Where do they want to perform? And how can we help to get them there? Whether it's from a service standpoint, when we look at customer satisfaction, whether it's in terms of employee engagement, and we do a lot of work around training and development. Most of our consulting is actually focused in that space, developing custom training programs for organizations so that they can either train their frontline staff in the principles of service, or they can elevate their frontline management teams to help their staff and support their staff through engagement and the like. Um, and again, it's just a great opportunity to have some variety. As we look into the future, who knows where we'll expand. Right now, a lot of our offerings are delivered kind of on the spot, or we'll create a package of recorded material to provide to a client and work with them through sustainment and activation within their organization. But there are opportunities for longer term and almost public, in a sense, offerings that we're also exploring. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
No, that sounds great. And so I guess for people who are thinking about their own kind of career path, thinking, look, I want to get ahead, I want to get promoted. I want to make sure I'm kind of constantly kind of moving up the career path. And then I suppose those HR leaders that are thinking, my people are, have these kind of expectations. What give us a sense of some of that content? What are the hot topics right now, the next couple of years around training? What is it that, maybe hard skills, soft skills, we've just got to get out into the industry in a better way?
Absolutely. Well, both are equally relevant today. The soft skill that I think is most important right now, you might call it agility or perseverance, but essentially simply the ability to recognize these are challenging times. There's no doubt
Mhm.
about it, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. Strong leaders are going to help their teams get through it. Taking a servant leadership approach is especially useful right now. Taking time for oneself from a mindfulness perspective, an incredibly important soft skill. And then the hard skills are certainly no less important. So, like we had spoken about earlier, James, if there are opportunities within your organization to do some lateral service, to try out a different department for a day or two or a week or a month, to volunteer for a new opening in an operational capacity that might be a little bit different than your own discipline that you've grown through a track on, give that a shot. Switch from rooms to F&B. Give back of house a try in sales and human resources. Experiment a little bit. Because again, there are more opportunities now than there have been in my memory and to some people in the history of our industry.
Yeah, love that. Love that. No, good stuff. The last thing I'm going to kind of probe you on is what's happening in luxury. I know a lot of Atollo members from some of the grad schools we work with, like Glion and La Roche, as well as people who are kind of out there looking for work or working at these chains today, are really thinking about luxury guests, that luxury experience. What's next for luxury post-pandemic? What's changing, and what should people be thinking about?
So luxury isn't exempt from any part of the industry that's going through the challenges that we've already spoken about. I think it's especially important in a luxury environment to embody those soft skills that I just mentioned: agility, perseverance. Being calm under pressure is a notorious quality for a luxury service professional. One of the things that's happening right now in the industry is, as a result of the pandemic, there was a significant amount of cost savings in pursuit of efficiency due to a lack of available supply in the first place. But I think over time, what's going to need to happen to re-differentiate a lot of luxury assets and create those identities that make places like the Palace in San Francisco so special, what needs to happen is a return of amenities, a return of services, a return, maybe not of all of the marble and gold, but certainly of the quality of materials and the caliber of staff that we would expect from an environment where we're paying several hundred, if not several thousands of dollars a night. And some of that will happen naturally through competition, just like in the 90s and the early 2000s, we saw what's termed amenity creep as people compete for better and better offerings and packages.
Yeah.
But I think it's also critical, especially with social media being as ever present as it is, for operators to think creatively about how they can market their hotel to new generations that aren't, the typical consumers of those luxury properties. How can we appeal to millennials, to Gen Zs? How can we use social media, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, to reach those audiences and show them how special a luxury experience is and how worthwhile it is for the price point that we'd assess to enjoy that experience?
I love that. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. There's this real physical aspect to it still, which I think we can't forget, right? That you really do want to feel you're in a luxury location. I think that's a great point around amenities. That, are they just, is that just the basics, or no, there's a chance to really stand out there. I think your second point really feels like actually there's new customers to go after in luxury, and that's going to be a really interesting kind of few years as we think about digital and what kind of experience they want. Maybe it's different to their parents, maybe it's different brands start to pop up.
Exactly.
And then I suppose lastly, it's really going to come down to the people, isn't it? Is that a returning workforce who are like, hey, we were furloughed, we were out of it, now we're back? Or actually, is there a whole new workforce that's going to need to be trained, it's kind of obviously what you do now, and kind of really kind of brought up to speed on actually this is where the sector's heading. So I think that talent question in luxury is going to be really interesting as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's a bit of both. You're certainly going to see returning ladies and gentlemen, associates, talent, you name them, we'll bring them in. And the job of a leader is going to be to inspire them, to re-inspire them and re-engage them after the challenges of the pandemic. And amidst the challenges of the pandemic, it's not done. And then at the same time, it's about inspiring new talent into our organization, showing them why careers in hospitality can be so fruitful, showing them how we can have really engaging careers that when we take care of our guests, when we take care of our colleagues, when we build environments with a lot of camaraderie and a lot of business learning in such a short span of time. And like I said, I'll say it, as long as this pandemic continues, this is such a great time, a challenging time, but a great time to develop hospitality careers.
Brilliant. Love it. Look, thanks, Alec. Like, unfortunately, I can see our time together is drawing to a close. This has been a really, really fun kind of back and forth and chat, and I think some amazing nuggets there. So really appreciate you sharing that with us. Unfortunately, that really is our time. So yeah, on behalf of the Atollo community, a massive thanks, Alec, for joining us today. And Alec's one of our Atollo's mentors. So if you want to join the platform at any time, it's free at myatollo.com. Drop Alec a note, share your perspective on luxury, training, talent, whatever it is. And I'm sure you guys could get some decent discussions underway. So Alex, again, thanks again for all you do. It's been awesome to have you with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, James. Thank you for having me and for building this great community. And I'll look forward to connecting with the audience offline.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. And then for the audience, we are back again next week. It's every Tuesday lunchtime, UK time. It's a breakfast show in the States, and it's an evening class out in Asia. We're going to be chatting with Martin Kubler, which I'm super excited about. Martin is another Atollo mentor, passionate about the world of innovation and technology and the way that the industry is changing. He's also a graduate from Glion Uni and part of that active alumni network, so we'll be able to share a huge perspective on networking, getting ahead, and sharing talent. In the meantime, a huge thank you for joining Atolo for this week's Lobby Talks, and stay safe, and we'll see you all soon. All the best. Bye-bye.